So in the class study guide, go ahead and turn to page 10. Yeah, just go through some of these ideas pretty quickly. The first group of bullet points here is on how often you should study. You should try to study more often for shorter periods of time than less often for longer periods of time. Does anyone know why? At least one reason. Yeah, Arjan?
More times, like, if you go down, it's like fast.
Yeah, exactly. The more times you like sort of re-engage with material and force yourself to recall it from a previous period is going to make you try to recall that information, which is going to instill it into your mind. Another thing that can happen, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, well, I'm hoping that you have. I'm assuming that all of us have at some point. You study something that's complicated, right? Challenging. I don't know, maybe you took an econ or econometrics class, and you're like, I hate this stuff. And you're studying it one night, and then the next morning you're taking a shower, and you're like, wait a sec, that makes sense. You weren't even thinking about it. It's just like the back of your mind was trying to resolve it for you, and something clicks, right? So the more often you study something, the more opportunities you have for you give your mind to resolve these issues in the background, right? But you also get to recall information like that. The other thing is that, what is it? You know those people who do spelling bees? Definitely had a deprived childhood. Sorry if you did that. And all they do is study words, right? And the history of words and all that stuff. Well, anyways, it turns out the ones that do the best in those competitions do put in a lot of time. But they put in time that is focused on the most challenging kind of recall exercises. And they can only study at most an hour when they're studying that intensely. And that's not just true for spelling bee people, that's been shown across other disciplines as well. So when you sit down to study, I'd rather you sit down and be focused and do your best effort, focus on whatever is giving you the most trouble, right? And do that well for an hour rather than kind of drag it out for 3 hours and yada yada. Okay? Now, class is unfortunately 3 hours, but we'll do the best we can. Now, okay, so that's 1 to 2 hours per day, sometimes more if you can break it up. Even 15 minutes is good. Sometimes you feel like, hey, I don't got any time to do LSAT today, but it's better to get in the habit of doing LSAT every day. Even if it's only 15 minutes, you're about to go to bed, you're like, I haven't done anything today. We'll do a game. The game takes 15 minutes. Maybe you have to review it the next day. That's fine. At least it's now one more thing out of the way, and you get into the habit of just every day you're doing something and you're checking in with the test, right? Last tip here comes from the book 9 Things That Successful People Do Differently. And the author, who is a Harvard somebody or other, said that scheduling triples your likelihood. Scheduling things triples your likelihood of actually doing it, right? So if you look at your week, what she suggested was you look at your week and you say, okay, every Monday at this time, every Tuesday at this time, every Wednesday at this time, or whatever, I'm going to do LSAT studying. It just becomes this like block in your mind. So when someone asks you, hey, can we do this thing? You're like, oh, wait a sec. I already got that time set aside. She says you're 3 times more likely to actually deliver on that plan if it's scheduled in your schedule. So I would suggest that. Small things can end up adding up to be quite a bit over a whole semester. All right. Any questions on that? Okay.